let's move it along. Any other discussion items, Kevin?
None that I'm aware of, Mayor.
Okay, we're going to take up the consent agenda. Would anybody like to be heard on the consent agenda items?
Kevin, I'd like you to, not poll, but just have a quick discussion about 07-067, smoke testing.
Oh, yes, thank you very much. Yeah, see, this, and I apologize again, this is something that we were going to be taking up with the Sewer Advisory Committee. They were scheduled to report today, but because of this new development, they're not here and they can't talk about this. If you'd like, I mean, we could actually pull this and wait till we hear from them next week, if you'd like. I don't have.
I think we should.
That's great. Why don't we pull that and wait to hear from the Sewer Advisory Committee with respect to that issue. Anybody have an objection to that? Great. So let's do that. Okay. Anybody wish to be heard on the consent agenda items? All right. Then entertain a motion.
Yeah, we have two add-ons. It's through
Okay.
76.
Thank you very much. So your motion is going to be from 059 to 076, excluding 067.
That's correct.
Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Aronio?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese?
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Vitarera?
Okay, I'd like to open up the meeting to the public for any general comments. Mr. Schlegel.
Hello, my name is Carl Schlegel. I live in Sterling, New Jersey, 318 Mercer Street. I'm here tonight to ask a question with regards to well, first of all, I have two things that I'm coming before you with regards to. One is that my neighbor asked me to come because her husband's sick and she's away with her husband in Florida to make a request that she said there was a street light towards the end of Mercer Street at one time, not a traffic light, but a street light between Main Avenue and Mercer Street that hasn't been replaced in years. And she said that she had actually spoken to you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I forget the lady's name.
Her name is Mrs. Rule.
Rule, I'm
Mrs.
sorry.
Rule.
Yes, thank you.
So she said that since she couldn't make it, she asked me if I would come and make the request.
Yes, I told her she should ask her.
I told her about our relationship, and I told her that there was a possibility that there would be no lights on Mercer Street as a result of this. But anyway, so I'm just here on her behalf.
I don't think that's fair. That's not accurate.
I'm just here on her behalf to make that request. Second thing I wanted to ask about is the FRAC committee. The reason why I want to ask about it is that I had put in an Oprah request for all of the records of the FRAC committee. And Mr. Saluka told me that there was a question as to whether I was entitled to receiving those items of the FRAC committee. And my concern with that is twofold. As Mr. Pidgeon said at the last meeting, that the only things that the committee could see or discuss were those things that were not of of a township committee nature in terms of personnel or in terms of litigation or other items like that. So I don't see why this advisory committee that was never sworn in, or at least I assume they weren't sworn in. I mean, I don't know what you swear them into. All of you were sworn in as township committee members. I don't know why I can't have all of the information, the same information that the FRAC committee has.
Hold on one second. Did we give Mr. Schlegel his response yet under the Oprah?
Not at this point.
Are we within the deadline?
I spoke to Mr. Schlegel and I advised him that the copies are voluminous, okay, and that he might want to come and look at certain
Okay.
items so that he can look at them. But I did discuss this this with Mr. Pigeon about a half an hour before the meeting, so Jack may be able.
Well, can I make a suggestion? When Mr. Sluka is ready to provide you with the documentation pursuant to your agreement, why don't you review the matters that he presents you, and to the extent you have any additional requests or questions about it, then we take it up, because sort of we're talking in a vacuum now, because as far as I'm concerned, you should get everything you're entitled to under Oprah. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Well, my question is not what I'm entitled to. I should be entitled to everything that the people that are on the FRAC committee are entitled to.
I don't think so.
I disagree with that, Mr. Schlegel. And I just spoke to Kevin briefly before the meeting. But first, I'd like to clarify what I said. I think I said that the FRAC committee should not be allowed to see personnel records and other things like that of a confidential nature. But just to carry out their charge, I think they would have to see some things that the Township Committee has access to and not necessarily the public. And I think that they have an interest in that. They've been charged by the Township Committee with carrying out a task. So I don't agree that anything that the FRAC Committee has access to, all of the public should have access to. I think the public has rights under Oprah. And as you know, the definition of a public record under Oprah is certainly much broader than under the prior laws. But even then, I think this township has always made it a practice to release most everything. But I do note that the term government record as defined in Oprah specifically states that the term shall not include interagency or intra-agency advisory, consultative, or deliberative material. So it's hard for me to answer the specific question in a vacuum without having seen the request and knowing what the records are. But it seems to me that certain work product of Mr. Sluka's or even of the committee's may not be a public record under Oprah. And again, I'm not saying it shouldn't be released. You can release anything you want.
So you haven't had a chance to review the documents to be produced?
No, I had a brief discussion with Mr. Sluka prior to the meeting tonight.
Why don't we give Mr. Pigeon an opportunity to do his job, review the documents, make a determination, and then we can take it up. Should he have the documents before the next meeting?
There is nothing in there that's not a public record at this point.
Then that solves the problem. It's an academic discussion then.
Okay, that's great, because then I will be able to see everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the second question I have with regards to what you're saying, Mr. Pigeon, is the Township Committee was all sworn in. They took an oath, and they're charged with these things. The resolution, the enabling legislation that created this FRAC committee, did not define any parameters for this committee, number one. Number two, didn't even define the scope in terms of how many members could be a part of this committee. And number three, I have a question. If they are looking at items that are not open to the public, if they are because of the fact that they're this committee established not by ordinance but by simple resolution, then how come, your presence isn't there? How come they haven't signed any non-disclosure agreements? There's nothing to prevent them from disclosing those items outside of the meeting.
Well, Township Committee members haven't signed a non-disclosure
Yeah, we have two
agreement.
members-
I don't know of any.
But they've taken an oath. They've sworn an oath, right? I mean, they were sworn in, and they're obligated under the oath that they swore.
But the Township Committee can invite certain people back to an executive session if they wish, if they have an interest, and they have done that. If you carry your argument to its logical conclusion is, the FRAC Committee, it doesn't exist as a public body, so none of the records are public records under Oprah. Look, I'm all for open government and releasing as many records as possible. Mr. Sluka said all these records you're entitled to, so I have no problem with that.
Okay.
But I just wanted to make the point that not every record is a public record, and I do think that an advisory committee, just like any other entity created by the township, may have access to things that aren't accessible to the general public.
So in other words, the Township Committee can decide to let anyone, if they decide as a group, to let anyone see anything